Unsuccessful people blame others, but your life will stay average until you accept responsibility for everything wrong with it. It seems like natural and normal and just to blame people when they've done something wrong, but it's actually a pretty big reason why we don't grow as people sometimes. Blaming people seems like an innocent thing to do, but it actually slowly and quietly drags us down into like a negative state of mind and like a negative mindset towards the world. And the scary part is you don't even know that you've been doing it. You blame people a lot more than you think, and it's halting your progress. If you want to feel good in the short term, blame others. If you want to transform your life, blame yourself. Like I said, blaming people isn't necessarily something that's reserved for evil people, or it's not something that we notice that we're doing. But when someone cuts you off in traffic, you blame them. When you give someone work to do in your job and they do a bad job, you blame them. And it's just these everyday small moments that you don't even realize you're doing it, but it's actually contributing to a lot of the stagnation in our lives. The greatest thinkers do the opposite. So they've got this philosophy of, instead of blaming people, they inherit the blame themselves. So they say, everything is my fault, even if it's not. Since I've been adopting this worldview and going along with that inheriting blame, I found that I'm able to add more value to the world. I'm able to be a better friend, better team member, a better member of society, basically. And it's because when you blame others, you have no control over the situation. You relinquish all your control. You have no power. You have nothing to change in yourself to make any difference to your life. When you believe everything is your fault, you don't have to rely on anyone doing good by you or things going the right way. You have control over everything that happens in your life. The little known secret to self-improvement is exiting the blame game entirely. The moment you accept responsibility for everything in your life is the moment you gain the power to change anything in your life. That's a quote by Hal Elrod. You might be thinking though, this doesn't make sense. Like, if I didn't do anything wrong, why should I be blamed? Like, isn't that going to take away from my own spirit more than benefit me? So think of it like this. There's a car in front of you and a car behind you, and you're driving around 60 k's an hour. The car behind you is right on your tail and he's pressuring you to go, so you speed up. But then the person in front slams the brakes and you rear end that car in front. So there's a few options you can choose here of who to blame. The first person would be the person tailgating you because they were right up your ass. They were forcing you to go faster, and they're the reason that you crashed. The second person to blame would be the person who slammed the brakes unexpectedly, and you could say, well, because you slammed the brakes, I crashed into you, or some combination of those two. But you can see in that example that whichever one you choose, it doesn't help you for tomorrow. It doesn't help you. Tomorrow, if you're in the exact same position and someone's tailgating you and someone in front of you, you'll get in the exact same car accident because you blamed others and you relinquished control over the situation. But if you were to blame yourself and say, I should not have gotten pressured into speeding up by the person behind me, just because they were tailgating me doesn't mean that I had to do that. And even if the person in front slammed the brakes, I would have had time to stop. And if the guy had tailgated me, then it would have been his fault. And so you see that when you blame others, even if it's their fault, you can't gain anything from that situation. And so the whole point revolves around, what can I do, or what could I have done differently in this situation to protect myself in the next time? If you go through life just blaming other people, you're just going to be walking into the same trap over and over and over again. Instead, you want to be gaining experience in every single situation that you're in. And the only way to do that is to say, what did I learn from this situation? What could I have done better? What did I do wrong that I can change next time? And when you do this, every single experience becomes a learning opportunity, and you sort of start to improve through life, even if you did nothing wrong in that situation. So it's like getting real nitpicky, like, okay, there's nothing I could have done. There was almost nothing I could have done differently, but there was this tiny little tidbit, and that's what I'm going to focus on. And that's what I mean when I say blame yourself. If you are willing to take total responsibility for your life, you will see that you are the architect of your own destiny. Let's go through an example and the 3 steps you can do to start blaming yourself, but in a productive way. So the scenario is that you've given someone a task to do at work and they've taken way too long to do it and they've completely missed the mark. Step 1 is to become aware of when you offload blame. So keep your eyes peeled for when you blame others. Now that you're looking for it, you'll notice that you do it a lot, and that's okay. It's normal. So don't beat yourself up about it, because this is all about improving. So for example, in that scenario, you would say, I've blamed him for doing a bad job and taking far too long to do it. Step 2 is to softly blame yourself. So once you've clocked that you're offloading the blame, you need to accept responsibility for what went wrong. And the reason I put softly in there is because you're not saying, this whole thing was my fault and I hate myself. You're saying, there was something I could have done differently to avoid this. So in this example, we would say, well, I never gave him solid instructions to be fair to him, and I didn't check in with him halfway to see how he was tracking, and I never gave him an estimate of how many hours I'd like it to take. So at the end of the day, you can't completely control the situation, and you shouldn't blame yourself and micromanage someone, but softly blaming yourself allows you to focus on what you could have done differently. Step 3 is to implement the change. So now that you've accepted your part and decided on what you could have done differently, you need to implement it next time. So don't let the driver behind you pressure you, or don't give the bad guidance to the graduate and then expect him to do a good job. So take those lessons learned and things you could have done differently and add them into your arsenal of weapons. Why do you stay in prison when the door is so wide open? Blaming others keeps you confined. The good life is reserved for those who learn from everything, not just their mistakes. Remember, if you blame people for things, even if it was their fault, you completely lose power in the situation. But if you blame yourself, even if it wasn't your fault, you gain power, you gain experience, you gain something that you can do next time differently to get a more positive outcome. Again, the 3 steps are: 1, become aware of when you offload blame. 2, softly blame yourself. And 3, implement the change. And if you think about how much you'll grow as a person, if you follow these 3 steps every time that there's an issue, like, imagine how much you would grow. Imagine how limitless your potential would be. You'll be learning all the time when you make mistakes and even when you don't make mistakes. But just remember, don't do it to a point. Don't make yourself feel bad. Don't blame yourself in the way that, oh, everything's my fault. That's a really dangerous game to play, and it's a fine line. But if you just remain productive with that productive lens, you'll be sweet, and you'll just notice yourself improving all the time and feeling less negative, and you'll be more contributing to something instead of focusing on what's wrong. You'll always be thinking, okay, what can I do better? What can I do better? No one likes someone who blames everyone else. People like someone who says, okay, it went wrong. I probably could have done this better. And that's the mindset that you want to take with this. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a like, because if you watch it to this far, I sort of use that as a metric to see how good the video is and what I should repeat and what I should double down on, or what I should do differently. So if you liked it, give it a like. Comment something that you learned, or if you don't agree with me as well, and subscribe to the channel for more.